Hey, this is Bill. Welcome back to the channel. This is a wolf, 200 pounds of muscle, teeth, and bad attitude. And this is a Chihuahua. It weighs less than a bag of sugar and is scared of stairs. These two animals are so closely related that they can have puppies together. Same species, different haircut. So how on earth did we get from one to the other? The answer is stranger than most people think, and we did not really do it on purpose. The story most of us grew up with goes like this. A brave caveman sneaks into a wolf den and steals a cute little puppy. He raises it, trains it, and boom, the first dog. It is a lovely story. It is also probably wrong. Hand-raised wolves have been tried many times. They grow up into wolves. They do not obey, they do not read your face, and at 2 years old they leave. You cannot make a dog by being nice to a wolf. Something deeper had to change. Here is what most scientists think actually happened. The wolves came to us. Humans are messy, we always have been. Every camp left a pile of bones, guts, and scraps just sitting there. For a wolf, that pile is a free meal that never fights back. But there is a catch. To eat it, you have to get close to humans. And humans throw rocks and carry fire. Most wolves stayed far away. But wolves are not all the same. Some are bold, and some are nervous. Every animal has a distance where it panics and runs. Scientists call it flight distance. The wolves with a shorter flight distance could eat closer to camp. More food means more surviving puppies. More puppies means more calm wolves. Nobody chose them. The rubbish pile did the choosing. Generation after generation, the wolves hanging around humans got tamer by themselves. That is why we call it self-domestication. They basically applied for the job. We know this partnership is old, really old. In Germany, archaeologists found a grave from about 14,000 years ago. Inside were 2 humans and 1 dog, buried together. And the dog was young. It had been terribly sick with a disease called distemper. A sick puppy like that cannot hunt, cannot follow, and cannot feed itself. It survived for weeks, which means somebody kept it warm and gave it water. 14,000 years ago, a person nursed a dying puppy that was no use to them. That is not livestock, that was already somebody's dog. But how does being friendly turn a wolf into something that looks like a Chihuahua? In 1959, a Russian scientist decided to test it properly. He took silver foxes and selected them for exactly one thing. Not looks, not size, just whether the fox would let a hand come close without panicking. The calmest few were allowed to breed. That was the entire rule. Within about 10 generations, something bizarre started happening. The foxes did not just get friendlier, they started to change shape. Their ears went floppy. Their tails curled upward, their snouts got shorter. They developed white patches on their fur that wild foxes never have. They started wagging their tails and whining for attention like dogs. Nobody selected for any of that. It came free with the friendliness. So why would calmness drag floppy ears along with it? The leading idea involves a special group of cells in the growing embryo. Those cells travel around the body and help build several different things. They help build the glands that produce the fear and panic hormones. They also help build ear cartilage, jaw shape, and the cells that make color in fur. So if you breed for animals with a weaker panic system, you get fewer of those cells. Fewer cells means softer ear cartilage, a shorter face, and patchy coloring. The tameness is what you wanted. The floppy ears are a side effect you cannot avoid. Worth saying honestly, scientists still argue about the fox experiment. Some think those foxes were already partly tame before it even started. But the same package of traits shows up in almost every domesticated animal on Earth. That is a very big coincidence, so the core idea is probably right. Once dogs existed, they turned out to be shockingly good at reading us. Point at something and a dog looks where you point, every time. A wolf raised in a house by humans still cannot do that reliably. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, are bad at it too. Dogs read our faces, follow our eyes, and check in with us when confused. When a dog and its owner look at each other, both of their brains release a bonding chemical. It is the exact same chemical loop that bonds a parent to a baby. Dogs hack the part of us that loves our own children. That is why they own the sofa. And we got a very good deal too. A dog hears things you cannot hear and smells things you cannot imagine. A camp with dogs cannot be snuck up on, ever. On a hunt, dogs track wounded animals and corner them. They carry loads, they keep you warm at night, and they never ask for wages. Dogs may be the single most useful thing our species ever met. Once the trick was learned, we tried it on everything else. Goats and sheep came about 10,000 years ago in the Middle East. They were perfect. They eat grass, they breed fast, and they follow a leader. Cattle came from a huge wild bull called an aurochs, taller than a person. Genetics suggest all cattle came from a surprisingly tiny founding group. Horses came much later from the grasslands north of the Black Sea. And horses changed everything because suddenly humans could move. Cats domesticated themselves exactly like dogs did. Once we stored grain, we had mice. Where there are mice, there are wildcats. A grave in Cyprus has a human buried with a cat from about 9,000 years ago. Cats never fully gave in, though. They still hunt, and they still leave whenever they want. But here's the strange part. We only ever domesticated a handful of large animals. There are thousands of species out there, almost none of them work. An animal has to pass a brutal checklist to be domesticated. It must eat cheap food, grow fast, and breed happily while being watched. It must not panic and hurt itself when it is fenced in. And crucially, it must naturally follow a leader. That last one is why we ride horses, but nobody rides a zebra. People genuinely tried. A wealthy Englishman even drove a carriage pulled by zebras. But zebras are hyper-alert. They have no proper herd hierarchy, and they bite. A zebra bite does not let go. Zebras injure more zookeepers than tigers do. Deer panic, hippos are murderous, gazelles jump straight over any fence. The animals in your farmyard are not the ones we picked. They are the ones that passed. And this went both ways. The animals changed us as much as we changed them. Adult humans originally could not digest milk. Almost no adult mammal can. But once we had cattle and goats, milk was food sitting right there, every single day. So in dairy farming populations, a mutation spread that keeps milk digestion switched on. Our own DNA was rewritten because we made friends with a cow. So nobody ever tamed a wolf. The friendliest wolves crept toward our fires and never left. We rewarded them for being calm, and they slowly turned into something new. Floppy ears, wagging tails, and eyes that watch our faces for instructions. It is the longest relationship our species has ever had. Older than farming. Older than cities, older than writing, older than every country on the map. There is a wolf asleep on your floor right now dreaming about a tennis ball. And somehow that is the most successful thing either species ever did. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new one. This has been Bill. See you in the next video.